So let's bring in Heidi.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, I'm Heidi Convery. I have been coaching the Vested Group here in Dallas for about 3 years now. I'm a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach, so I use the StrengthsFinder assessment to help executives and teams learn a little bit more about what makes them tick, why they do what they do, and to help them be more productive and more engaged in their work and home life. So, Brenda, it's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Thanks. This will be very interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing some more about my strengths. So, thanks.
Yeah. These are a little bit funny, I think, because when you're talking to Chris, I sort of take on this creeper role, and I'm sitting listening to you talk and making notes about things that you say and or things that you talk about that you really love or things that you don't, what motivates you, why you moved to a smaller sector, all of that. And I have your Clifton Strengths Report and can tie pretty much everything that you just said to your top 10 strengths. And so really I wanted to take some time to point out a few things that you talked about and kind of why you feel that way, why that has motivated you or why it hasn't, based on what your actual talents are. And this is all leadership based, right? And so I think your talent specifically has made massive impacts on the people that you've worked with. I can tell by how you were speaking to Chris, and about what's motivated you, especially making a move to a startup, and kind of what pushed you there outside of even why you think you moved. So I want to talk first. Your number one strength that came back was connectedness. And ironically, I guess, heard that the entire time that you were talking. I think one of the biggest ones was you mentioned that you were really wanted more collaboration, that you loved collaborating with others, and that one of your biggest strengths as an individual, without even knowing that this was your report, was that you love to connect with people and help them connect to their job. And that is such a huge part of connectedness as a strength. That one really is about being able to, it's relational. So it's about feeling connections with others, seeing connections with others, and really wanting to kind of create this map. I sort of see it of pinging, all over the place. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, when a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the earth, there's a tsunami on the other side, that everything is a cause and effect. We're all connected. Our actions impact somebody else. How is that? Do you kind of feel connected to that concept? Do you see that in yourself?
So I think hearing those words, it resonates a lot with how I look at my relationships with people, how I look at what I want to do in my job. So no, I think that sounds very true to me and to my perspective on the world. Yes.
Yeah. And our strengths, I really think they're more the how, not the what. So think of these as your lens, sort of just like you just said, how you look at your interactions with people. You're looking at your interactions with people based on your connection to them, or how you can connect them with somebody else. I know a lot of folks with connectedness high who they're always the ones to be like, you know what, I know somebody I need to introduce you to, or I think I know this one area that you'd be really great at.
Yeah,
you can feel that connectedness. Yeah. Another one that I wanted to talk about that I loved, I kind of laughed at. You were talking about how Chris asked you something that you don't like, and you said, I really can't stand those staff meetings, or maybe just brainstorming meetings where it feels like nothing is happening. Combined with you talking about loving to sort of live in that stressful edge, where it's like a little bit tense, but there's something about it that attracts you to that, where it's sort of stressful, but kind of exciting at the same time. So you have a strength in your top 10 called activator. You and I shared that one, actually. And activator is it's sort of like it sounds. It's about taking action. It's got a courageous side to it, and sort of lives on the side of, let's let's just jump off the cliff and we'll work on the parachute on the way down. And it's going to be okay. But at least we're moving, right? I mean, we're headed in the direction. We're trying to take some steps forward. I laugh because Activator has a hard time sometimes with brainstorming meetings, or I kind of call them sometimes trash can committees, where it's just a bunch of chat and talk, but there's not any at the end. Okay, but what are we going to do now? So how have you, I mean, it sounds like that talent for you really has come out a lot in how you see your role, or maybe how you engage other people. How have you seen Activator for yourself?
Well, I think you hit on it when you talked about my compulsion to go and work in a smaller environment. The Activator absolutely has a better ability to impact actions and to start acting and to see those actions have results in a smaller environment. So when you work in a really large company, like I said, I'm so grateful for that opportunity. It taught me a lot, but your ability to understand how your actions have a direct impact on the results of the company, it's hard. There's so many more layers. It's more nuanced, your role. And so I think it became a point at which my Activator frustration may have been kicking in, and I needed to operate in a smaller environment. I had great opportunities inside IBM to be an Activator because I created some new organizations that had never existed before. I designed some capabilities. So I did figure out how to use that talent inside IBM, but I think it just became time for me to figure out how to use it outside. And so a small company made a lot of sense.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, Activator, I really feel like, that's a strength that can often be really underutilized in large settings, right? Unless you have somebody who's really taking some leadership or taking some determination to use it on their own, kind of like you were talking about starting some new initiatives and groups. That's a great strength to engage when you have someone around you who has it, to be able to say, you know what, we've got this idea. Why don't you take it and run for a little bit? Try it out, see what it's like. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So I think another one that I wanted to talk about with you, when you were talking about the transition to working with smaller group, you said that you wanted to be more involved in customer problems. So helping to find that solution, kind of your hands a little more intertwined with that process. And you have a really unique strength in your top 10 called restorative. And it's a little less common. I don't see it quite as much in coaching, which gets me a little giddy, to be honest, because I nerd out on strengths. And so when I get a chance to talk about one I don't see very often, it gets kind of exciting. So restorative is a problem-solving strength. It has some fortitude behind it, where the best way I can kind of describe restorative is, let's say it's low for me. So let's say you and I are kind of presented with an issue in the middle of the day. I might look at that issue, that obstacle, and go, oh, gosh. And I'm kind of halted in my tracks, right? Can I get through it? Yes. Is it going to take a little longer for me? Probably. But with restorative, you sort of look at that obstacle and go, all right, let's go, right? You just grab your hammer and your chisel and you start knocking away at that big obstacle, that boulder. So restorative actually needs problems to be engaged. A lot of times I see people with this strength who they might be some of the first folks to leave a position, not necessarily because they were unhappy there, but they just felt a little bit stuck. And it's usually because the challenges have lessened slightly. They need problems to solve on a daily basis and challenge. So I know you don't have any shortage of challenges in a startup small business area, because I can relate to that. But have you felt maybe since you transitioned to a different energy level around being able to tackle customer problems or just entrepreneurial issues that kind of pop up on the daily basis?
So I think you're absolutely right. So I've seen this in a couple of places. I didn't really know what words to put around it, but certainly in my jobs at IBM, I was known to be the person who was really great at building something, maybe not as great at running something. Means once I had figured out how to build it, and I had attacked the strategy of building something from nothing, the operational piece, the day in and day out of showing up and tracking
Yep.
progress was less interesting to me. And so I
Yep.
generally needed to move on to the next thing. In my entrepreneurial role, I actually am an operating partner of a private equity firm, and I sit on some boards of some portfolio companies. And what I've liked about that is that every one of them has unique challenges. It could be product based, it could be market based, it could be financial. And I've enjoyed the part of digging in and saying, okay, how do we help this company figure out how to get over this next obstacle? So board work in small, entrepreneurial companies is challenging one. You don't
Yeah.
get compensated for it. You do it just for the pure love of it, to help the companies. And their problems are large because they tend to be undercapitalized and so forth. So I've really enjoyed that more than I thought I would. And I think it's
Yeah.
because of what you're just discussing. So I do
Hugely.
think I am a bit drawn to near more sticky situations. But I think it's also, so it does challenge me, it interests me, and I enjoy serving those organizations. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And isn't this, to me, this is just the most interesting part about strengths. Sometimes we know what gives us energy, right? Like you could say, I know that I really loved figuring out what a problem was, conceptualizing what we could do to solve it, how we're going to tackle it, get that thing started, and then sort of hand it off, right? So I could be energized by the next thing, and not really realizing that the reason why, right, you're energized by that is because specific talents of yours were hugely engaged in it. I mean, they're being used, they're ready to go, and that behind this sort of helps you then look at, okay, I can think of reasons in the past or situations when my strengths were engaged. Now I can be even more intentional moving forward, knowing maybe ahead of time, that's something that would engage my strengths hugely. I'd like to get involved with that. Or, much like the taking the trash out comment from before, there is for sure things that we have to do that we don't really care to. We have to sit in the staff meetings, right? So being able to approach those knowing ahead of time, there might be some moments in this where my strengths are not engaged. And so I'm going to prepare for what that's going to be like and search for maybe opportunities in there that I can use activator, right? Or I can use restorative. So
right.
I love that. You have a couple other strengths: ideation, which is sort of like a brainstorming, gets energy off of pinging ideas. Arranger loves to create the most efficient order of how to do something. You can see where all of those strengths together you would love that board work, right? Some other strengths like achiever, some consistency, those are really low on your list, which would mean that when you're talking about that long-term, right, like sticking with something for a while, and managing it for a while, that you're exactly right. That does not bring you any energy at all, right? And so you can do it, but not the best use of your strengths, and a little more challenging maybe. Yeah.
No, definitely. I
So,
think that I probably always looked at that as a shortcoming. Like, why do I get so bored in the running? And sometimes when you build teams, for instance, it's sad to leave teams. Once you build a team and you get them really humming, you think this should be the fun part. This should be the part where everything's
right.
going well, but it isn't for me. So
Nope, it's
I
not.
ended up
And
leaving.
that's,
Yeah, leaving.
yeah. And I'm glad that you point that out too. In my coaching, I spend a ton of time on our mindset, which, we are a weakness fixing people, right? We that's kind of how our society is set up. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about, why can't I do this? Well, I don't, I need to work on this. I need to fix this. For sure, we need to manage areas that we don't excel.
Right.
But putting more effort and energy into those areas that you do excel, right? Providing you more opportunities to create and start the team, or figure out what the issue is and get the solution started, is a perfect way to engage a talent that you have that nobody else does. The last thing that I wanted to chat with you about, you have a strength in your top 10 that I just have huge envy for. It's called individualization. And this strength has the ability to be able to hone in on unique characteristics about other people. So you might not even realize, I think a lot of people with individualization don't even realize that they do this. But the way that you observe people around you, those that you work with, I guarantee you, if I knew some people that you worked closely with and I could say something like, Brenda, why don't you tell me about Joe's morning routine when he comes in the office? I think you could give me scary detail about what that whole routine is like. And so it's from just an observational area, but it's also from a strengths area. I think people who have individualization high tend to really like the concept of strengths because it makes each person unique, right? It's more of we need to look at each person individually and not treat them the same because they're not the same. So when you just mentioned having a love of forming teams, people with that talent usually are very good at forming teams because it's not kind of a roulette situation, right? You're looking at individuals and thinking, they would really mesh well in this area. And this person brings this unique talent I've seen them do. That would be great for this spot. You had mentioned before about really wanting to, that desire to go from large to small, right? Large IBM to small startup. Some of your individualization is there too, right? Kind of being able to zero in, have a little more specific interaction, a little more tailored approach. So can you think of maybe some times and examples where you have felt that individualization, that you really have recognized something about someone that you didn't even realize you knew?
Well, first of all, I think all the time. I mean, the answer is, I think it ties a lot to the connectedness piece, which is part of being a great connector is actually seeing people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really seeing them individually and seeing who they are and what they care about. And
Right.
so I will say that I'm an artist on the side. I've done painting, and so one of the
Wow.
things you'll know about artists is that it's not about the skill. It's not about the actual what your skill is, but it's about your powers of observation. Observation is the greatest talent that an artist has, and I think that probably has extended into my observation of people and behaviors and their thoughts and feelings and so forth. So no, I think it happens all the time. And one example I can think of very clearly is when I was hired into a new organization at IBM, and my reporting manager came to me and said, I hate to tell you this, but in your new organization, there's 2 people that need to be fired. And she had a pretty long list of reasons why those people needed to be moved on, had to do with their performance and so forth. So I said, well, just give me time to make sure that I understand. I need to see the people. I need to talk to them. I need to be clear. Well, what was very clear early on was that was wrong. Whatever had happened before was not happening under my time. And I was able to get a lot of information about how they were interacting outside of the organization that was very positive. So I had to come back and say, I'm not going to do that. And it didn't go over well. They said, well,
I can't imagine.
I told you you're going to do this. Right. I told you you're going to do this. And I said, no, I'm actually not going to do it. And here's why. Give me some time. One of those people ended up being one of the top rated people in that unit across all of my peer units as well. So among about 150 people was one of the top rated people. And the other one ended up leaving, but because when another organization found out we might have been separating him, they said, oh no, we want him. We love him. So he found a great job in another organization. And so all of that was because I think I was able to take the time to see in them things that other people hadn't seen. That doesn't mean they did a bad job. It just means that talent allowed me to take the time to observe what was valuable in these people. In one case, to really nurture it, and in the other case, to send it off to be valuable to another team. And they were really happy. He was happy. They were happy. It all worked out. But I think that has. I know that in my discussions, I talked about loving managing people, and I think it comes from that. It comes from that ability to observe and
It does.
to see them all.
It does. It does. I mean, I don't think I'm really supposed to have favorite strengths in certain areas. I would guess I need to be neutral. However, I love working with managers who have individualization high, because the degree at which they know their team is incredible to me. And it just takes knowing them, starting to learn the strengths of their people to a completely different level. And situations like you're just talking about happen, not all the time, but really giving folks the best chance of success by understanding how they tick and what kind of environments engage their strengths, right? And how you can adjust that. So that was awesome. I loved it. I wish we had all day to talk.
But we don't.
We don't. We do not. We do not. But I really appreciate you, Brenda, your vulnerability in this, and allowing me to kind of dig into your strengths a little bit more and connect it to your leadership style. So I hope you have a really great day.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you so much, Heidi. It's been very interesting. I have to say, when it was first described what was going to happen and that I was going to be assessed live on screen was a little intimidating.
Yes, it is.
No, but it was fantastic, and I really appreciate the insights, and I think I can use them to focus my actions and my organization and so forth. So I think, yeah, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. All right.